Hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to talk about how Aang died in the Legend of Korra. So, I always thought, and maybe they'll explain it this way, that when uh Legend of Korra got her connection uh with the past avatars, that that's like severed, that's when Aang and the other avatars officially quote unquote died, if that makes sense. But let's let's see what this is referring to. So Aang ended the war and restored balance to the world, but what came next? Or maybe they actually are talking about how Aang died before the events of Legend of Korra. Now thinking about it, so who knows? Who knows? After The Last Airbender introduced a fascinating fantasy world full of lovable characters and its own element bending power system, where the most powerful individuals is the Avatar, who can manipulate all the elements. In each generation, the Avatar is reborn to complete the cycle. The series follows Avatar Aang, who was voiced by Zach Tyler Ensign, a 12-year-old tasked with ending a war that lasted 100 years. The show established such a fan base that, despite the 15 years since it ended, is still popular. After The Last Airbender is being remade into a live-action series owned by Netflix and has inspired many stories within the world, including graphic novels, several book series, and numerous upcoming projects of Avatar Studios. But most of the original is in the spin-off show The Legend of Korra. As the direct sequel to After the Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra takes place only 70 years later. The minimal time gap allows the several of the original show characters to be alive in the spin-off, including appearances by Aang's friend Katara, who turns out to be his wife and the mother of his children, Toph, and Zuko. However, the nature of the story requires Aang's death. The Legend of Korra is about after Aang. Korra, whose heard Janet Farney is the daughter of Robin Williams, which is neat if that's true. Anyways, and for the Avatar spirit to be reborn, it first must die. Aang cannot be alive for Korra's story, but his friends and children offer a new Avatar guidance, and Aang's spirit lives on in Korra. But the series doesn't go in depth into what happened to Aang to end Aang's life. His quest to bring balance to the world met a happy conclusion in the series when he was so young, so his later years are still largely unexplored, leading to many fans wondering about the events of Aang's death. So they're literally talking about Aang's death here, okay. So how did Aang die in Legend of Korra? Uh, Avatars often live dangerous lives as they defend the balance of the world, yet many live long lives, some unnaturally long. So Kyoshi lived an astounding 230 years, but few shared her longevity. Roku only lived 70 years, and after Kuruk, known for a living living a short life, died at age 33 due to his fight in the spirit world. However, even non-Avatar characters live a surprisingly long life. Avatar King Bumi, lived to at least 112 years, and after the last Airbender show shows him still active at the age. And Sojin, the Fire Lord who began the war, lived until 102. Aang saw a close call in the series when Azula electrocutes him in the crystal catacombs of Ba Sing Se, but Katara manages to bring him back from the brink of death with spirit water. And yet he could not live forever. And based on Korra's age, we know that Aang didn't enjoy an unexplainable long life, dying only at 66 biologically. Aang's age is complicated by the 100 years she spent frozen in the ice before her siblings Katara and Sokka discovered him at the beginning of the After the Last Airbender. Interestingly, this event is important to his death as well. When he runs away from the Airbenders, hoping to escape his fate as the Avatar, he and his trusty flying bison Appa, who I didn't even know was voiced by D. Bradley Baker. Was D. Bradley Baker? I know him as practically all the clone troopers in the Clone Wars and Rebels. I mean, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and Star Wars: The Bad Batch. Well, except some Omega. I'm not Scientist Lady. So yeah. Are caught in the storm. They fall into the ocean, nearly drowning, but the fatal conditions triggered his after state, allowing Aang to create an air bubble for him and Appa. But in the freezing water, they are also frozen into an iceberg, where they stay until an angry Katara accidentally bursts it. So although he behaves and appears as a 12-year-old in the series, Aang is technically 112 based on his birth year. The years frozen while in the Avatar state took their toll. And Aang grew older. He learned that time drained his life force, causing him to die of old age at the biologically age of 66. With so many threats that the Avatar has to deal with, there are so many ways he could have gone, but fortunately Aang died peacefully. So Aang leaves behind a legacy. Despite After the Last Airbender ending when Aang was still young, he continued to be an influential avatar. After ending the war, Aang spent the rest of his life remaking the world. He re-established the Air Nomads and founded Republic City, introducing democracy. Though the series doesn't show these actions, they are evident in The Legend of Korra, and the comic series explores them more completely. The world has changed by Korra's time, with advancements that can only happen during these times of peace. This proves that Aang's later years were focused on industrialization and creating a new world. Despite the genocide that killed Aang's people, being the Airbenders, there is a new air nation in the Legend of Korra, consisting primarily of air acolytes, non-benders willing to live the life of nomads. Aang managed to pass on the tradition and culture of the air nomads to a new gang. With Aang left the airbending traditions in the hands of his son Tenzin. Though Aang never met him, his abilities was passed on to. Although Aang never met them, his abilities was passed on to his 4 grandchildren through Tenzin. He and his wife Katara also had 2 children, a waterbender, Kaya, and Bumi, who isn't a bender until Korra makes her mark on the world. And what they mean by that is that Korra in the show, there's something happens where Korra makes her mark in the world, and made some people airbenders out of nowhere. That was cool, but I can see how they'll be freaky at the same time. The lesson of Korra also reveals some of Aang's struggles in his later years as Avatar. Aang gives Korra glimpses of his fight with the bloodbender Yakon, which resulted in Aang's taking away the man's bending. Though that end, though that ended the problem within Aang's lifetime, Korra faced Yakon's son, who carried their father's hatred for the Avatar, proving that Aang made many enemies, even in a time of relative peace. So Aang's connection to Korra in the Legend of Korra. Despite everything Aang accomplished, the greatest legacy is the following Avatar. Aang's spirit lives in Korra, as do all the past Avatars. Korra and Aang are opposite, where Aang works in compromises and peaceful resolutions. Korra is determined and always ready for a fight. But the fiery Avatar is still connected to her predecessor. The previous Avatar often acts as a guide to the new one, and Aang does. My screen went black, so the previous Avatar, I'll repeat it. The previous Avatar often acts as a guide to the new one, and Aang does this for Korra. Korra struggles with the spiritual side of her Avatar training, but does manage to talk to Aang by the end of season 1, which was just a beautiful, magical moment. And I oftentimes look up that scene on YouTube just because how beautiful it is. Her direct communication with Aang triggers the Avatar state and helps restore the bending she lost. Aang also teaches her the concept of energy bending, but Aang can't take care of all Korra's problems. During her journey, Korra loses her connection to the past Avatars and seems to restart the Avatar cycle entirely. Yet Korra still has the Avatar spirit, and though she cannot communicate with Aang directly, he lives on in her and any Avatar who follows. So essentially, what they're saying, or how this article kind of relates to the title of "How Did Aang Die in Legend of Korra?" You can say one of two ways. One way, after Aang dying was the result of him being frozen in ice for 100 years, which took a toll on his body, which is why he died at 66. Or you can say that he, in a way, died, in a way, even though he lived on through Korra, he died due to Korra losing her connection with the past Avatars. I wonder if she ever reestablishes that in the future. I don't think she does, due to that makes this article acknowledging that Korra kind of was the end of one cycle and the starting of a new one. If that makes sense. So I kind of doubt it, but it is pretty interesting. It would be pretty interesting how they would answer the whole if, and this is a big if, Korra is able to reconnect, put back the lost connections she had with Avatar Aang and the past Avatars. But that's just me. And the reason why I'm saying it's interesting because I love how the creators explain stuff in both Korra and Airbender shows, So I have faith that they could tell us a really compelling story if Korra does reestablish a connection with Aang in the past avatars. But if not, that's cool too. I totally understand that as well, but that's where my head's at. Like, I'm okay with it. I've been an After the Last Airbender fan, or been engulfed into this world ever since After the Last Airbender debuted. Was it 2005? So, like, what? 18 years ago. Gasp. Can't believe it's been that long. I feel so old. But what do you guys think about this article? Let me know in the comment section down below. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. I'll talk to you guys later. And if you guys are new here, I do link the article in the description of each video that I may be reading. So this video article that I was reading will be in the description. So if you guys want to read this, you guys can. But with that said, if you guys have a wonderful day, be kind to one another. Talk to you about me just later.